a thought on the religious notion of the Spirit and the irony of that view, that most common view of being led by the Spirit, which is, if you are led by the Spirit, you will do these, and then they lay out a cookie cutter series of things you must do to prove to the satisfaction of men that you are being led of the Spirit. Whereas our God is a God who proclaimed, I will be who I will be. That's the more accurate meaning of Exodus 3:14 when he says that to Moses in identifying himself. And also the Lord, when he stood here on earth with us, and he talked to Nicodemus, and he said that the wind blows where it will, and you hear the sound thereof, but no one knows where it comes from. And of course I'm paraphrasing, but that's John chapter 3, and he says, so are people of the Spirit. So you have the reality, and it's opposed by the fantasy, which is religion, which tells you these are the things you must be doing to be led of the Spirit. Whereas to be truly led of the Spirit is to be just that. It's led of the Spirit. There's no cut and dried rule. In this situation, you will do this and you will do that. That's what religion is. Although it claims to be of the Spirit. That's why I say it's ironic. Because there is a time for everything. Let's say, oh, Christian, always turn the other cheek, no matter what. I was listening to some political person who was a Christian and was talking about how she was at some function and that just the abuse, they were just leveling verbal vulgarities and threatening, and I think there was some physical abuse involved, and her husband wanted to jump up and she said, no, don't do it, no matter what, no matter what. And the whole excuse for not responding in any way, shape, or form was because that's what a Christian does. So just Christianity is just establishing a new law. This is the new law that we always do. And I'm not saying it's never right to turn the other cheek. I'm just saying, what does commanding that you will always turn the other cheek have to do with anything? He didn't always turn the other cheek. And as a side note, he gave those commands, the turbocharging or nuclear powering of the law, as I like to call it, when he gave the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, was to illustrate that you can't do any of those things. So he just made it clear that this is what the law really means. If you want to obey the law, this is what it really means. But the reality is, when you're led of the Spirit, in this situation, it might be right to just take the abuse. Another one, no. Another one, fight back. Neither one of them is a set, hard, and fast rule. I'm not saying get out there and fight and mix it up with people. I'm saying be led of the Spirit, which is the last thing religious people do. They have nothing of the Spirit because they got their orders and commands and what they should do according to the biblical commands they believe in, according to their denomination, according to the church building, according to the guy speaking from the pulpit, who, his number one command always is listen to me, and from there it just follows. But they're all arbitrary. They're all just commands of men following other men. But to be truly led of the Spirit, that's flying without a net. And most people don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because they don't have any faith, and that's a shame. But they're not even encouraged to do it. They're not even encouraged to do it, to find out what it's like and to learn how to hear and trust that voice. Because to get there, you're gonna make your mistakes. You will, because there's all kinds of voices. It's not just a battle between your flesh and the Spirit of God. There's all these voices in the world. There's a spirit in the world. The spirit of religion being the not predominant one, from my point of view, at least for those who claim to be God believers. The spirit of religion is insidious. It's everywhere, teaching lies about God, making him into an ogre and a liar and a hypocrite. And you really gotta fight. You do have to fight to stay in the truth and to see the truth and to hear the truth and to act on the truth. And the spirit of truth is here, but he has competition. You better believe it. And it's from the spirit of religion. So I just want to kind of like notate that, the irony about those who claim to be led of the spirit, because I know they're all different denominations. They vary in their degree of their spiritual claims, but it all comes down to proving to the satisfaction of some man how spiritual you are. Whereas someone who's truly led of the Spirit probably won't satisfy anyone. Paul certainly didn't satisfy hardly anyone. He could name all his friends by name. So just know that if you're in the crowd in religion and you're getting amens to the left and amens to the right, that's not a good sign. It's not. It's a very bad sign. And that's what freed my wife and I, is realizing that all that stuff means nothing. If you disagree with them, it doesn't prove you're right. There can be an indicator you're on the right path, but obviously two people can disagree and they can both be wrong. But the thing is trust that spirit. You have a spirit living in you. You have the spirit of God living in you. You don't need to consult with some man for confirmation of what your God is showing you. Learn how to trust that and believe what he's telling you, and you will be like Jesus said about the wind. He says, it blows, you hear the sound thereof, you don't know where it's coming from. People don't know where we're coming from, I guarantee you. And I know people will laugh, well, yeah, of course we don't. Or we know where you're coming from. You're coming, and that's the type of things they used to say to him. You have a devil and all this stuff. And I know people think that about us. They'll accuse us of having a devil. And it's the irony just it's almost funny. I guess that's why I'm smiling, because I'm not saying they're all of the devil, but certainly religion is at best of the flesh, and at worst the flesh following another spirit. But it's not of God, because there's no trust in God, because it's getting confirmation from other men. And they're not ashamed about that. They don't hide it. Yeah, make sure that, if your pastor or people around you say you're wrong, man, you got to straighten yourself out. You got to get on another path. But the notion of being all alone in church, they always want to frame it in the context of all alone in the world. All alone in the world, because the world is going to be against you. Well, when it comes right down to it, the world's not really against you, because in a three-way battle between the world and the so-called church and someone like a Paul, everyone would agree with the church. The worldly people would agree with the church. And those who trust in the Lord, ain't no one going to be listening to them. That's my thought for today. In Jesus' name.